Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk about parenting a sensitive kid and what it's like to have faith that they're going to manage their big emotions in the future. That what you're doing is working, that you're leading them in a way that is helping them manage their emotions safely, and how you can maintain that faith and trust. And I want to talk about this from a parenting perspective, but also regarding your child's capacity for having faith in themselves. And so let me know that you're here. Wave, say hi. Good to see you. And, one thing that I hear from parents often is this comparison issue that they have. They're looking at their sensitive child. They're seeing their sensitive child react at home with big, intense emotions, hitting, kicking, screaming, yelling, throwing things, even to the extent of punching holes in the wall by the time the kid's 11, 12. And where parents get stuck is this concern that other kids are behaving in disrespectful or ineffective ways in public, yet their sensitive child is doing just fine in public settings. And so when you're parenting a sensitive kid and you're the one who sees their biggest, most explosive behaviors, and yet no one else sees them, it can be very difficult to determine what's normal, what's appropriate, whether or not this is a big problem, because society tells us so often that we're supposed to put on a brave face and demonstrate effective functioning out in the world, at work, out in the community, that we're supposed to keep it together in public. And then if we let loose and lose it at home, that's okay, right? And that's healthy functioning, that as long as nobody knows we're suffering inside, we're going to be fine. And so when you as an adult use emotion management skills like venting, lecturing, or drinking on the weekends, just waiting for the weekends to drink, or Netflixing and just spending a ton of time vegging out, then this lesson is for you. I really want to pay attention to the emotional escapism that I see so many parents get stuck in. And this clouds your judgment on what is normal, appropriate, or effective for your kid. I'm going to use the word normal, guys. I know. I know that the word normal can be an inflammatory word these days. OMG. Normal. We hear so many people recently, they're like, well, what is normal, right? Like, what? As a licensed clinical professional counselor, registered play therapist, supervisor, I have worked with kids whose behavior is totally inappropriate, dangerous, life-threatening, right? And so I am qualified to tell you what is normal. And it is not normal for a child. And when I say normal, I mean healthy. Emotional health, right? And wellness. It is not normal for people to be pervasively anxious to the point where they explode with their loved ones. It is not healthy for children to be pervasively anxious to the point where they implode on themselves. And that is what I'm talking about when I'm covering normalcy, all right? When I'm covering normalcy, I'm not saying that I'm not talking about superficial normalcy, like your grades or your performance in an activity. That's not what I'm covering. I'm talking about emotional health, and there is a threshold that is appropriate and not appropriate. Like, there are categories, and in the mental health world, clinicians, we learn how to determine that. And yet, when you're parenting a sensitive kid, that can be very difficult to find and decide, because when you're parenting a sensitive kid, your child does not fit the norm because they are a minority, right? They're a major minority, 20%. This is 1 out of every 5. So you look around your kid's dance class, you look around your kid's soccer team, you're going to find several sensitive children. That's important for you to be aware of, because as I was mentioning earlier, if you're trying to have faith and trust that your kid is going to turn out okay, and you're comparing your kid to everybody else's kid to make that decision, then you are not making an effective, informed decision to maintain your own inner trust. You need to learn as a parent what it takes for your mental strength to assess your child's needs and trust your child is growing by assessing your child's skill set and assessing your child's growth. You can't learn whether or not your child is presenting and functioning effectively by using other people's outward lives to dictate your kid's inner life. And I really want to make sure that we're covering the same thing, because when it comes to having faith that your sensitive kid is going to become a healthy, high-functioning 26-year-old. This is a language term that we use in our work with our clients. We are not raising kids who keep it together. We are raising healthy, high-functioning 26-year-olds. Healthy, high-functioning 26-year-olds, they can hire a house cleaner. So if you're getting trapped in the fact that your kid is leaving dishes in the sink and not putting them in the dishwasher as your pet peeve, then you're hyper focused on your jobs as a parent because you might be overwhelmed, right? And I'm not saying that that this isn't a lot to handle as a mom of 2 kids running a business, and we're literally in the middle of a move, and I'm doing my Facebook Live or my podcast episode on Instagram Live right now because I didn't have time to batch record it like I usually do, right? So I get having a busy life on Mother's Day weekend. Because life happens, right? May is ridiculous. So I'm not saying that that getting the job done on a day-to-day basis isn't work, okay? And if we prioritize the to-do list over our child's emotional health, then this will cloud your judgment on what is moving the needle with your child's capacity to handle stress, frustration, overwhelm, and be resilient, right? So we teach parents that highly sensitive children eliminate the meltdown cycle when they learn how to be playfully resilient. And how do children learn to be playfully resilient? Through the parent-child relationship, okay? This is so important because when your child demonstrates intense emotions, like saying things like, I hate you, you don't love me, life would be better off without me, I want to shut the world down or shut the world off, everybody's wrong, it needs to be exactly the right way that I need for things to happen. Those are, in adulthood, those are symptoms of neuroticism, all right? Point blank, it's in the DSM. I don't love that word, for sure. Like, I think it's sexist, quite frankly. However, it is right now meeting clinical standards of ineffective communication and ineffective functioning, all right? So when we pay attention to that and we notice normalcy, I'm talking about the concept of normalcy in relationship to health, where a child feels like they are capable inside, that they are a good person, they trust it. Right? You can't convince your kid to turn their negativity ledger down. You have to teach your child to put down the pen. That is a very different focus than just talking to your child over and over and over again about how good they are. When a person doesn't feel good inside and communicate effectively and healthy inside, a sensitive child who is demonstrating explosive or implosive behaviors, that is not a feelings problem. That is not a feelings problem. Other people will tell you that it is a feelings problem. And I am here to tell you that it is an emotion problem. It is a regulation problem, which is very different than just thinking your kid's feelings need to be fixed or that your child feels and that's what dictates their behavior. That is actually a very basic level. It's a concept that's taught in CBT that a lot of mental health professionals just kind of stick their stake on, and then they teach parenting courses and things like that. CBT does the triangle. Your thoughts affect your feelings, which affect your behavior, okay? It is more complicated for sensitive kids. Sensitive kids are not aware of their emotions because they're taking in more information from the world that is not just emotional. And when sensitive children are thought of as emotions first beings, like, we see language like deep feelers, or, even just like big emotions being like the construct of how we describe children like that are sensitive. It is really important that as a parent of a sensitive child, that when you have that framework to look at your kid, and that you're looking at your kid from that lens, you are missing a large amount of information about your child and how they experience the world. So when you have effective faith requires strength to tune out the noise. It also requires knowledge to tune out the noise. Like, who do I listen to, right? Sensitivity is a nervous system experience. That is not an emotion. Emotion is a label of the body sensation. So the body sensation is what drives the experience. And the information that your child is taking in from the world isn't just emotional. So they're taking in senses, they're taking in words from other people, they're taking in thoughts from other people, they're empathetic, right? They might not show it if they're overwhelmed and incapable of managing that overwhelm, right? They might not show it, but you have to trust that if your kid is highly sensitive, then they are empathetic inside. Because if you believe the opposite, or if you're, I'm not convinced, then you're going to raise a sociopath. Bottom line, like maybe a little slightly sociopathic, not necessarily to the point where they're creating crime in the world, but I'm talking about somebody who is antisocial, who is not communicating effectively, who puts walls up, right? That's the disconnect here. Because sociopathy, when I say sociopathy, I mean people who are just completely disconnected from emotions and the emotions of other people. Sociopathy is typically taught, okay? Now, I said that in an inflammatory way because I know, you and I both know, if you're listening to me, that's not going to happen because you are in a come heck or high water, that's not going to happen space, right? So it demonstrates you do have strength here. However, if you just tune me out, that means that you will stay stuck because you can't tolerate somebody being this inflammatory and teaching you how to communicate to your kid. Instead, you shut down, right? And so when we're talking about being faithful that your child will turn out healthy, even if they're not demonstrating healthy behavior, that means you have to make clear and consistent action that is not driven by your emotions. It is driven by your wise mind, that you are capable of noticing, okay, my feelings are facts. This lady has something to say. I'm feeling emotionally intense by that. I think my car's turning off. Okay, that's fine. You can turn off. I don't need you. I got distracted. So emotionally, you're, what was I saying? Shoot. Emotionally, if you're not able to slow down and see that your feelings are driving your facts, you will not be able to trust that your child is communicating their emotions. They're talking to you and they're sharing their emotions, and that's not a fact, right? So it plays into how you parent your kid. If your child is saying things like, I hate you, you don't love me, or you're the worst mom ever. Oh my goodness, on Mother's Day, we see so many parents who come to us right after Mother's Day who say, I can't believe my kid behaved in this way on my one weekend, right? And this dynamic is happening now or soon for you. And when you're in this explosive behavior, I'm not here to predict and create fear, but I'm just noticing that we see this. We've been doing this for a long time. There are themes throughout the year that parents deal with. And so when you don't have the necessary skills, and so pay attention to that this week. Your kids' emotional needs are going to be communicated in ineffective ways as well as in ineffective behaviors. And those words are important though, because it demonstrates the depth of their suffering. And this is one thing that is so important to understand, because if you are clear on the depth of your suffering and your child's depth of their suffering, then you can have more effective faith that you will be able to solve that problem. But if you stick your head in the sand, like a conversation I had earlier this week with a parent, who was wondering whether or not his son was struggling, he was looking at his kid's behavior, and he was saying, you know what, like, my kid doesn't behave in ineffective ways in public. So he's like super, buttoned up and well behaved. He follows directions. He does that really well. So I don't believe my child is suffering as much as he is, and as my wife is saying, because he's only showing us this bad behavior at home. And the wife is noticing, well, when I lose it, it's because I'm suffering, right? And so why is that not what could be going on for my kid, right? And so this dad was humble enough to hear that on the conversation and be like, oh, okay, a 5-year-old isn't willfully demonstrating ineffective behavior, isn't choosing to be a brat at home, right? And I know he didn't even say the word brat, but you and I both know that is a thought that's coming through your mind at some point when you're triggered by your kid's behavior and you're wondering if their behavior is a choice, right? And so I've got 5 more minutes with you guys before I got to pick up my kid at dance. So when we're talking about the capacity to trust your kid's capability of feeling better and communicating their needs more effectively and feeling capable of communicating their needs more effectively, what that means is that you need to understand what's driving the behavior you see in front of you, right? And you have to notice whether or not you do the same thing, right? And so that's exactly what I'm talking about, Mary Vaughn. I'm sorry, I'm not going to name your handle here properly. May Robin. I'm trying to read that properly, and I don't know how to do it. Why is that my son is great at school and really bad at home? This is what we're talking about. First of all, there are no bad kids, right? When I say you have that thought that your kid is being a brat, that is the issue here, right? The trigger, if you're feeling that and you're making an assumption and you're deciding that your kid is bad, that is a decision that puts you separate from your kid, okay? All right? And so what that means is that you are choosing to lose your own emotional experience while judging your child. And so that is an emotional reaction that you're having. And so in order to have trust that your child is going to change their behavior and that your skill set in teaching your child to change their behavior is going to move the needle in their inner world, that they're going to feel capable, feel like they're doing the very best that they can, feel capable of doing even better than they are, and trust that right now is okay, and they're changing their behavior in the here and now, and it's going to be better today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day, not in 10 years, because kids don't live in the future, they live in the present. You need to understand how you're communicating, how you are responding to your own sense of emotional behavior, and how you're judging your kid's capability. Because if you're judging your kid's capability by their people-pleasing behavior, and because you value people-pleasing, or because your behavior is also people-pleasing, then you won't be able to see outside yourself, and you'll be teaching your child the same behaviors that will keep them stuck, right? So sensitive children who are explosive or implosive at home and they're not responding effectively, they don't respond safely, right? Safety is the first emotional skill set that you need to demonstrate at home and that your child needs to demonstrate at home. They need to feel safe in their own bodies. They need to feel safe in their own capacity to communicate, and they need to feel safe that they can communicate their emotions healthily, right? So that focus has to be from an internal sensation in their body, because sensitive children are not the fire starters. They are the fire alarm that something's going on at home. And it is very important that you don't look at your child as the cause of your emotional intensity. If you're feeling worried or concerned or overwhelmed about your kids' skill sets to safely communicate, that is your job to fix. your job to change how you respond, your job to change your knowledge on what teaches children. Because if your process isn't working, then that's a clear indicator that you're going to put your faith in your kid. And no child feels safe if they are leading the parent-child relationship. And so when you're saying things like, my kid doesn't respect me, or my kid doesn't obey me, or my kid doesn't demonstrate trust in my authority, that's an alarm that you're not conveying trust and safety and leadership effectively. Authority is not the language we use in our community to convey healthy families. I don't run my house like a military tight ship. My kid follows my directions because she trusts that I know how to help lead her. And a good, effective leader doesn't micromanage, doesn't wag a finger, doesn't say right now, right this minute, or else, right? A good, effective leader is not explosive, is not making their emotions contingent on other people's behavior. A good, effective leader communicates safety in that relationship. You know what, sweetheart? Bring it on. I can help you. I've got you because I get you. I understand what it's like to feel this level of suffering, and I'm not going to take your emotions on. However, I'm also not going to let my emotions rise to your emotional threshold to make you then stuff your feelings, right? So this is so important and critical to understand that the listening comes from your child's capacity to tolerate frustration and intensity and overwhelm. And if you're not seeing daily follow through from your child because they are daily struggling to communicate healthily, emotionally, and safely, that is a perpetual problem that will stick if you don't get support at this point. Okay, so this is really important to communicate more effectively, because your emotional intensity isn't going to shift from a quick fix or a tip or a trick. I don't offer tips or tricks, all right? Because they don't solve the problem, and I'm not here to tell you that this is an easy problem to solve. In fact, I think that will keep you more stuck. Because when I had to stop being Mad Meg in grad school in order to accept relationships and tolerate them and communicate effectively where I wasn't blaming other people for my emotions, I had to work with a professional to do that. It was effective. It was swift because that professional knew what they were doing and I could manage myself with the process effectively. But I couldn't see myself from inside myself. I did not have the capacity. Everybody else at that point in my life was the problem because I was very confident. I was very confident, but I was also very blind. All right. And, this is important to make sure that you guys are paying attention to this. The skill set that you need requires a process, right? So when we teach our clients this process of managing their emotions first, choosing to notice their assumptions and judgments, choosing to correct their assumptions and judgments, not just of their child, but also of their capacity to parent. And then the leadership skill comes in to then take action on routines and feelings that can be fun and playfully teaching your child to manage their emotions. That empowered mental state is a very different decision and emotional presentation of yourself. And when your child then hears you and you try to change your child feels capable because you're not trying to change your child from your own emotional pain. When you try to change your child because you're pained by their behavior and you're bothered by their behavior and you are stressed out by their behavior, they feel averse to that. They will reject that neediness in you because it is neediness. I need you to behave well in order for me to feel better. Okay. And so this isn't, family therapy for parenting sensitive kids. It is very difficult to get this needle moved, guys. As a clinician, I don't do that work anymore because it took way too long. And also because you're putting your kid in the position to have to change you at the same pace of you. No, your kid needs to follow you. Your child cannot make any change beyond the change that you've done yourself. So no. Family therapy does not change this problem for sensitive children. There might be more needs that family therapy could be useful for, but for sensitive kids communicating their emotional intensity, they are not the change agent. You are. You are the therapeutic change agent. And so what that means is that you can't change your child faster than how you can change yourself. All right. So that's the first piece. We don't even talk about what behaviors to get your kid to change in our first 8-week program until week 4. Week 4 is when we start to change things. And like I said, it's 8 weeks. So we make our clients suffer in emotional patience for 8 straight weeks because that suffering has to come out before it can be organized. And we need to work with that, right? And so when we're talking about shifting the emotional overwhelm and the meltdown cycle, we call it a family dynamic cycle, guys, because it is. You are the helm of the family. Your child is feeding off your emotions, whether you like it or not, whether you stuff it and present well or not, whether you are a, high-powered managerial leader or not, whether you have 2 master's degree or a PhD or not. I don't care what your educational level or how high functioning you are in your profession. These are our clients. You are very effective in every other part of your life, and yet presenting well is your coping skill. And if that's the case, your child will not move beyond presenting well and being a perfect little angel in school or in their community and exploding at home unless you learn how to stop exploding at home too. And when I say exploding, it doesn't mean you're always yelling or spanking or, getting into this like rageful ridiculousness. I'm saying at home, at the end of the night, you're exploding in information overload. Oh my gosh, I need to fix this right now. Let me listen to 700 podcasts and read 700 different articles and buy 3 different books that I never read. Right? That's still an explosive behavior because it's urge-led. It's urge-led. Overconsumption of information is not transformation. Information can spark action if the emotion is calm and can fuel consistent action. But if the emotion is not calm, then you're not inspired and you're going to sabotage your own work. Okay? So your emotional skill set is what needs to be addressed first when you are demonstrating faith and emotional intensity control in your household. And control isn't white knuckling and gripping the steering wheel, guys. This is just what our society will tell us. Keep it together until you can let loose. No. Dissipate your emotions like sand in an hourglass. When you feel a feeling, it rises and falls just like a wave. That is the skill set that you can tolerate all day long and demonstrate all day long so that your kid can do the same thing. Sensitive kids and meltdowns do not go hand in hand. Do not go hand in hand. Kids with ADHD and meltdowns do not go hand in hand. Neurodivergent kids with sensory processing disorder and meltdowns do not go hand in hand. And everybody else on the internet is saying, no, that's like part of being a neurodivergent kid. No, it's not. No, it's not. It is a symptom of a behavior in a meltdown cycle, right? But if your kid is functioning in certain pockets of community and then is, presenting well, I should say, and then not in others, including the household, that means that they are not demonstrating safety. Okay? So they're not safe in any other way because body safety is not a thing that you can compartmentalize. Emotion safety is not a thing that you can compartmentalize. So if you want our help to break out of this pattern, go to meganthompsoncoaching.com/talk, guys. There's a link in my bio for you to book a call with our team. We also have a free webinar that you can listen to really dive into this because I am 5 minutes late. to picking up my kid. And so thankfully she gets dressed and, does all the things and is probably playing with her peers, but I'm seeing a couple of her friends leave the parking lot now. So I gotta go. All right. So I look forward to having this conversation with you guys, to learning whether or not you need the intensive support, deep work that we do in our program. And if that's the case, great. Like, let's go. All right. Look forward to helping you. So yes, you go to meganthompsoncoaching.com/talk. All right. The link is in my bio. You just click the link. We have a little link thing. We've got free training in there, and you can find us on all kinds of platforms. So definitely go right ahead and get on the phone with us if now is the time to turn this around. All right, folks. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.